Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare,
श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। गुरु श्री गोपाल गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की, गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय, भक्त देवी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय, श्री कृष्ण राम भगवान की जय, नित्य गौर काज भगवान की जय, जय जय कृष्ण भगवान की जय, भगवान जय, श्रीराम सिद्धार्थ धाम की जय, जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय, गुरु परंपरा की जय, ईसाई सक्सेशन की जय, जय जय ब्रह्मांड गौरव संप्रदाय की, इस्कॉन फाउंडराचार्य हिंदराज प्रभुपाद की, इस्कॉन प्रसादन एंड बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की महामंगला आरती की जय, जय श्री महामंगला आरती की, भक्त की गौरव प्रेम Once you get the language, if you talk about microphone, yeah. And we present cameras if you want to also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also. Yeah. I think it's coming on Zoom. It's sharing your screen, right?
I'm sharing screen.
Good, good. That's all.
Hare Krishna. So start with Jai Radhamani. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Hari. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Sankirtan teacher. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Pankaja Nabhaya Namo Pankaja Maline Namo Pankaja Netraya Namaste Pankajangraye. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, text number 33 today. So on Zoom, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, Prabhu.
Amayo yasya bhutanam jayate yena subrata tadeva hi amayam dravyam na punati chikitsitam. आमयो यश्च भूतानां जायते येन सुब्रत तदेव हि आमयं द्रव्यं न पुनाति चिकित्सितम् आमयो यश्च भूतानां जायते येन सुब्रत तदेव हि आमयं द्रव्यं न पुनाति चिकित्सितम्
आमयो यश्च भूतानां
आमयो यश्च भूतानां जायते येन सुब्रत तदेव हि आमयं द्रव्यं न पुनाति चिकित्सितम् आमयो यश्च भूतानां जायते येन सुब्रत तदेव हि आमयं द्रव्यं न पुनाति चिकित्सितम् Anyone else?
I can't see.
आमयो यश्च भूतानां जायते येन सुब्रत तदेव हि आमयं द्रव्यं न पुनाति चिकित्सितम् Anyone on the Zoom like to chant?
Yes,
Go ahead.
आमयो यश्च भूतानां जायते येन सुव्रत तदेव हि आमयं द्रव्यं न पुनाति चिकीर्षितम्.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Amayo yasya bhutanam jayate yena suvrata tadeva hi amayam dravyam na punati chikitsitam. Hare Krishna.
Synonyms: Amayah, diseases, Yah, cha, whatever, Bhutanam, of the living being, Jayate, become possible, Yena, by the agency, Subrata, O good soul, Tat, that, Eva, very, He, certainly, Amayam, disease, Dravyam, thing, Na, does it not, Punati, cure, Chikitsitam, treated with. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? Purport. Prabhu would like to read the purport.
An expert physician treats his patient with a therapeutic diet. For example, milk preparation sometimes causes disorder of the bowel, but the very same milk converted into curds and mixed with some other remedial ingredients cures such disorder. Similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. Such activities have to be spiritualized, just as by fire iron is made red hot, and thereby the action of fire begins. Similarly, the material conception of a thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. That is the secret of spiritual success. We should not try to lord it over the material nature, nor should we reject material things. The best way to make the best use of a bad bargain is to use everything in relation to the Supreme Spiritual Being. Everything is an emanation from the Supreme Spirit, and by His inconceivable power, He can convert spirit into matter and matter into spirit. Therefore, a material thing, so called, is at once turned into a spiritual force by the great will of the Lord. The necessary condition for such a change is to employ so-called matter in the service of the Spirit. That is the way to treat our material diseases and elevate ourselves to the spiritual plane, where there is no misery, no lamentation, and no fear. When everything is thus employed in the service of the Lord, we can experience that there is nothing except the Supreme Brahman. The Vedic mantra that everything is Brahman is thus realized by us.
Thank you. So is it visible on Zoom? The screen?
It's coming. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is the full screen or you see the presenter mode?
Full screen.
Om Ajnanati Mirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Nitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sabadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Anitamsha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyabadi Paschatya Desatarini He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratise Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this is the chapter where Narad Muni is instructing Srila Vyasadeva, and he's answering the question why Vyasadeva is feeling despondent. Right. So we have discussed throughout this chapter. So initially Vyasadeva is giving his problem to Narad Muni, saying that that even after compiling all these Vedic scriptures, he is not feeling happy within the heart. And Narad Muni is pointing out the reason for that, that he has not sufficiently glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he's instructing him that, okay, you should compose some literature which will only glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, okay? Nothing else. And that's how Srimad Bhagavatam was written. So in this particular verse, so Narad Muni is giving the essence of bhakti actually. So I have taken this, all the slides basically are made based on a lecture by Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan, August 14, 1974. The link is here. If you want, you can listen to it later. It's a very powerful lecture by Srila Prabhupada. And he tells in that lecture that this verse is the essence of our Krishna consciousness movement. So this is very, very important verse. And Prabhupada summarizes the essence in just 3 lines. Okay. But first, let me just quote another quote from Srila Prabhupada, where he says, the governing principle for our activity should be to do what is favorable for pleasing Krishna. So that is the governing principle of bhakti. Okay. Do what is favorable for pleasing Krishna and don't do which is unfavorable. And now it's very simple to explain in just 3 lines, as I said. The first thing to realize is that everything belongs to Krishna. That's the first thing we have to realize. Everything belongs to Krishna. And there are a lot of references in the scriptures to explain that. We have in Bhagavad Gita, this famous verse, the peace formula, right? Bhuktaram yajna tapasam sarva lokam hishwaram. Krishna says that he is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. And he is the supreme Lord, Sarva Loka Maheshwar. He is the supreme Lord of all the planets, all the demigods, and all the matter and spirit. He is the supreme of all. The same thing is also explained in a slightly different way in the Ishopanishad, the first mantra, right? Isavassamidam sarvam, jatkincha jagatyam jagat. So Isavasya principle, that everything belongs to the Lord. So we only use whatever is necessary for us. That's the Isavasya principle. Again, the same thing is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in different places. For instance, in Canto 8, Swayambhuva Manu is instructing his grandsons. He gives the exact very similar verse, only the first part is different. It says Atma Vasam Idam Vishwam, but after that is the same thing as the Ishopanishad mantra 1. So the reason I'm saying all this is that this verse has been emphasized so many times. This principle, this Isavasya principle, has been emphasized in so many places, so many times in the scriptures. So that's the very important principle. That's the first thing to realize, that everything belongs to Krishna. And then the second thing is that I, as a soul, each of us as a soul, individual soul, we are eternal servants of Krishna. That's the second principle. And this is also explained for example, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Jiver Sarupa Krishna Nitya Das. Right? So here we are an eternal servant of Krishna. And in fact, we are always serving someone in this material world. Also, if you see, we are serving, always we are serving someone. Either we're serving our family, we're serving our employer, we are serving our nation. We are always serving somebody. So it's up to us to either be servant of Maya and just be entangled in the material world, or be servant of Krishna and then get out of the material existence. Right? So that's the free will that we have. So either be servant of Maya or be servant of Krishna, but we have to be servant all the time. There is no escape from that. So that's the second part, that everything belongs to Krishna, and then we are eternal servants of Krishna. And then it becomes simple. Just combine that and say that now let us engage everything in the service of Krishna. So that is the essence of Krishna consciousness movement, and that is what will give the ultimate peace. Again, coming back to this Bhagavad Gita 529, Bhaktaram Yajnatabasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Surudam Sarva Bhutanam Gyantamam Santim Ruchyate. That's knowing that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and he's the supreme beneficiary of all austerities, all penances, all service. Knowing that if we engage ourselves in the service of Krishna, that's what will give us peace, on the ultimate peace. That's the peace formula. But of course, it's easier said than done, because we have this deep-rooted desire for our own sense gratification. And that's the reason why we are in this material world in the first place. For millions of lifetimes, we're carrying this deep desire that, no, I want to enjoy it. Why Krishna is the only enjoyer? I want to enjoy. So that this rebelliousness, this desire is the reason for us to be here in the material world. So how we can actually practically apply this essence of the principles, and how we can elevate ourselves in the spiritual life. So that's that principle that is explained in this particular verse, and that's the reason why this verse is so important, as Srila Prabhupada said in his lecture. Okay, so yeah, so how do we realize this? So this is a consciousness graph, as you can see. So there are three types of people we find in this world. One type of people, they are the karmis, or in Sanskrit, they're also called the vogis, one who wants to enjoy, right? So they work really hard, but they want to, the end result they want is the sense enjoyment. That's the goal of life, right? Work very hard, and that's the material principle that governs all this materialistic life. Work, and then whatever you get, earn money, then enjoy, and just enjoy life to the fullest. So this is the Charbak principle. Runam krutva ghrutam pibet, jabat jibet, sukham jibet. That even if you have to beg, or you have to steal, or you have to cheat, but you live luxuriously and just enjoy the life. That's the Charbak principle. That's the principle of the karmis. Okay. And this is also explained by Prahlad Maharaj in Bhagavatam, when he is describing, when he's explaining to his friends in the school, And later when he's also talking with Hiranyakashipu, he says, Nate vidu swarthagatim hi Vishnum durasraye vahi arthamaninam. Nate vidu swarthagatim hi Vishnum. That the bhogis or the karmis, they are strongly entrapped by this consciousness of enjoying material life, and therefore they do not accept or they don't engage in the service of Lord Vishnu, but they engage in the service of their own senses. Okay. And then he goes on, says, what's the result of that? Andhayathandhe upaniyamanas tepi shatantyam urudam nibaddha. That like a blind man guided by another blind man, what will happen? If one blind man is guiding another blind man, then at some point they're going to fall into a ditch. And that's what happens when these materially attached men, they take shelter of they choose their leaders or guru, a similar mentality, a person of similar mentality who is attached to external sense objects. So they cannot deliver the people from this material world. Rather, they're encouraging people to be more and more materially attached, bound by this by the ropes of the fruitive labor, and they continue again and again in this materialistic life. Punah punah charvita charvananam. They continue to chewing the chew, right? Just keep on enjoying the material life. So that is the mentality of the karmis. It's the consciousness, right? So now when the consciousness is slightly elevated, then come to the stage where they get some knowledge. They're called the Gyanis. But typically the Gyanis, they think everything is Maya, so they renounce everything. So that's the opposite extreme, right? So one extreme is enjoy everything. The opposite extreme is renounce everything. Everything is Maya, right? And this is the philosophy of, for example, the Buddhists, right? Buddhism says that the reason for our suffering is a desire, so get rid of the desires. And the same thing is the Jainism says same thing, Mayavad philosophy. So this is all saying the same thing. So yes, the Gyanis, they typically they want to renounce everything. So this is the other extreme, right? But is it really possible? Is it really possible in this material world to renounce things, renounce everything? It may be possible for very selected few people, but for most of us, practically, it's very, very difficult. It's almost impossible to renounce things. Actually, Krishna confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita itself. He says that this is an extremely difficult path to renounce things and be situated in transcendence. And he says, Mama Maya Durataya. Right? Only those who surrender unto him, they can overcome this Maya. Otherwise, Daivi Yasa Gunamaya Mama Maya Durataya. Extremely difficult to overcome, okay, because it's Krishna's energy. And there is a great danger in this path that even a slight temptation can deviate one from this path of Jnana Yoga, right? Just a slight temptation can make them fall down. And we have several examples in the scriptures where this has happened. For example, Vishwamitra Muni, he was a great yogi, and he did austerities for 60,000 years. And then a slight temptation by, what's her name? Menaka. So he immediately fell down. All the 60,000 years just went in waste. Just 1 second of temptation. And then the example of Sobhari Muni, he was so exalted that he could undergo penances in the water, inside the water, for many years. But then just by looking at two copulating feces, then he lost his sense control. And then he married several daughters of one king, and so on. Then he went to grace the life. So yeah, so there all these examples are there just to tell us that this path of Jnana Yoga, just the artificial sense control, that is not feasible. That's not feasible for common men. That's not feasible for us. And then if we evolve in the consciousness, then come to the stage of the bhakti. And these are the bhaktas are the people who really can detach from material life. But it's not artificial detachment. It's the detachment by looking at something, by tasting something higher. And Krishna explains this in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, right? Visaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasa barjam rasopi asya param drishtva nivartate. That just if you restrict yourself from sense enjoyment, then the taste of the sense object still remains within the heart. Then whenever there is slight temptation, that desire, it fructifies, and then we are deviated from the path. But if you experience something higher, if you experience a higher taste, then the taste for the lower lower enjoyments that cease to exist. And that is the way to actually detach ourselves from the material sense enjoyment, and then employ our senses for the enjoyment of Krishna. So work for Krishna's enjoyment. So that's the Yukta Vairagya principle. Whatever we have, just utilize all the resources, all the skills, all the knowledge in the service of Krishna. So we're not rejecting things like the Mayavadis would do. That everything is Maya, just reject it. No, we are utilizing those in the service of Krishna. That's the best utilization of the resources. That's the best utilization of the human life. Okay. So we can take an example. Let's take the example of this beautiful flower bouquet, right? So tomorrow is Mother's Day. So if you go to the shops, you'll see these nice flower bouquets. So if one is a Karmi, they'll just take this bouquet and present it, maybe to their wife, whoever. So they'll just present it, right? So that's the sense gratification part. And if you're Jnani, you'll say, oh no, this power is Maya. Everything is false. So power. So just don't look at it. But a devotee, when he sees this flower bouquet, he comes, he takes it and then offers to Krishna. So that is the best utilization of that flower, right? So that's the Yukta Vairagya principle, that whatever we have, just offer it to Krishna. Now, why we have to remember this principle that offering everything to Krishna is the best way? Well, first of all, we cannot just live without doing any work, right? We have to do some work to maintain our lives. Okay, everyone has to do some activity. And there are two types. Well, there are actually three types of karmas, activities. One is karma, one is big karma, one is akarma. That's explained in Bhagavad Gita. So we're not talking about big karma here. Big karma means forbidden acts which are forbidden by scriptures. So obviously, once one who does that, they'll get sinful reactions. So we're not talking about that. We're just talking about karma, the irregular activities that a karmi will do, versus activity. This may be the same activity, but when it's done for the pleasure of Krishna, that becomes spiritual activity. So that's the point I want to emphasize here. So first, let's look at the karma. If you look at this picture, I don't remember the source of this. I just got it in a WhatsApp message, I think, and I really like this picture. Prabhu, do you know from which source this is? Maybe
this is spoken by Bhagavatam. Somebody devotee.
Okay. Right. So, okay, this is the purport of that Prahlad Maharaj's instructions in this painting format. Yes, it's a very beautiful picture. What it shows is that there's a man hanging from this branch of a tree, and this tree, as you can see, everywhere there is danger. So this tree is being uprooted by this elephant, and it's explained that this elephant represents our past karma. So the past karma is trying to devastate her life. And then you see these two rats here, the white rat and the black rat. So these are the day and night. They are chewing away the branch. That means they are chewing away our duration of life, our lifespan. And then below here, there are snakes here. So they represent the future karma. So whatever activities you are doing now, we have to get the reaction for that in future life. So that's the future karma. And then there is a beehive here. There are like drops of honey dripping. And this person is still licking that drops of honey. And that's the material enjoyment. That's basically, that's literal. I mean, that explains the, like how temporary or how what is that called? Flinching. Like how flinching this material enjoyment is. That you have dangers everywhere, but still that small drop of honey, this person is just hanging on to that branch. and he's enjoying the material life. So that's the bondage, right? So work for sense enjoyment will cause the bondage and will be in this repeated cycle of birth and death. And what is important here is that you see this Krishna who is extending his hand, but this person is too busy in enjoying that drop of honey that he's not extending his hand to Krishna. Rather, he just keeps on doing that, and eventually this branch will fall, and then he will fall down into the next life, to the next life cycle. So that's the material enjoyment. That's the karma. Whereas akarma means the activity for which we do not get any reactions. Okay. And though these are the devotional activities, only devotional activities can be in this category of akarma, where you do not accrue any karmic reactions for that. And these are the activities. We have all these 9 devotional processes: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasya, Marchanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Right? All these different processes of bhakti. So the principle is that we are doing bhakti for the pleasure of Krishna. We want to please Krishna. That's why we are doing bhakti, and that's why we are not entangled in the bondage of the karmic reactions of this, but rather this will free us. This will free us from the bondage of this material life. So that's the power of bhakti, right? And this is also explained in Bhagavad Gita, where it says that that verse, yagyarthat karmana nyatra lokem karma bandhana tad artham karma kantaya mukta sangha samachara. Krishna explains that you have to do anyway work, and if you do work for your own sense gratification, then it will cause bondage. But if you do it for the pleasure of Vishnu, for the pleasure of Krishna, then that will free you from mukta sangha. That will free you from bondage. So choose whichever you want to do. Rather, you want to do according to your own whims, or you listen to the spiritual master, listen to Supreme Personality, and then do whatever is instructed there. So that will free you from bondage, right? You can just take the example of food. We cannot survive without food, so everybody has to eat food. Now this food, you can choose whether you want to just make food and just enjoy it for yourself, or you make food, offer it to Krishna, and then you take it as prasadam. It's a very simple example, right? So when we just eat for ourselves, for our own sense pleasure, then we are eating the sin. And Krishna says, you are eating verily the sin if you are just cooking for yourself and eating for yourself. But if you're offering it to Krishna and then you're taking it as prasadam, then you're first cooking it for Krishna's pleasure, and then you are eating it, and then you are freed from that sin. So that's a very simple way to to see that how working for Krishna's pleasure will get rid of the sinful reactions for us. So the activity might look the same, but the consciousness is important, right? So like cooking, right? So if you're cooking for yourself, cooking activity is the same, but what's the consciousness? You're cooking for your own sense gratification, or you're cooking for Krishna's pleasure, then the result is different, right? And that is explained by this nice example in this verse, or actually in the explained in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, that you take for example the milk preparation. Let's say rabri. That's one of the famous milk preparations, a very delicious milk preparation. So if you eat it too much, then what will happen? If you eat too much of milk sweet, what happens? You get dysentery, you get indigestion, right? But to cure this indigestion, you can again use the same milk, but in a different format. Isn't it real surprising? Like the same thing that causes the disease, you can use it to cure the disease. That's what is explained in this verse, right? Yeah, what is the main word there? Chikitsatam. Chikitsita means properly treated. Chikitsak means the doctor. Chikitsa means treating. So chikitsita means properly treated. So if you're getting indigestion, then you take yogurt with lime and salt and a little bit black pepper. So that cures that indigestion. This is explained by Prabhupada's purport in Prabhupada's lecture. Sorry. So yogurt is nothing but milk, right? Just a transformed form of milk. It comes from milk, right? So the same milk which caused the disease of indigestion is cured by another form of milk, which is yogurt. So, but we have to take the guidance of the proper doctor to do that, right? Without a doctor telling us to, or an Ayurvedic doctor telling us in this case to take that yogurt, we won't know like how to cure that indigestion. So just like you need an expert physician, you need an expert doctor to cure a disease in the material life, we need an expert doctor who is the spiritual master to cure the disease of this material entanglement. And that's the importance of having a spiritual master, right? Who can expertly guide us what we should do to please Krishna, what we should do to get rid of to go out of this material existence and go back to Godhead. That's the potency of the spiritual master, and bona fide spiritual master, right? He's compared to a doctor, and we are like patients. Is this clear so far? Okay. See. Yeah. So the activity, I just said, activity can be the same, but when spiritualized, that's what will give us that's the karma, right? So in this example, you see the activity is dancing. Now, where you are dancing, for what purpose you are dancing, that determines whether you'll get the karmic reaction or not. So if you're dancing in the club, you're dancing in a pub, then obviously you're dancing for your own sense gratification and you'll get that karmic reaction. Whereas dancing on the street in Rath Yatra, for example, we have the Rath Yatra coming up, right? So in Rath Yatra, if you're dancing, then that's spiritual activity. The dancing, the action is the same, dancing, but the consciousness is different. In one case, it's for your own pleasure. In another case, it's for pleasure of Krishna, pleasure of other devotees. So that makes the difference, right? Take another example. Buildings, right? You can build, you take the same ingredients, same raw materials, cements, bricks, a mortar, whatever not, and then you can make a skyscraper out of that for people to enjoy, or you can make a temple out of that. So the activity, the building is the same, building activity is the same, but for what purpose? What's the consciousness of that activity? That determines whether we get the spiritual benefit or not. So the same action can be spiritualized when everything, that's the purpose of this verse, right? When everything is engaged in the service of Krishna, then that becomes spiritualized. So matter can be converted into spirit. See, everything is Krishna's energy, right? Matter, spirit, everything is Krishna's energy. So if Krishna wants, he can convert one to the other, right? So matter can be converted to spirit if it's engaged in Krishna's service. But when it's not engaged in Krishna's service, then even spirit, like our spirit souls, they when embodied in the body and they act for their own pleasure, then they basically dull matter, right? They're converted into matter essentially. So either you convert matter to spirit or spirit to matter. That is that depends on the consciousness, the living entity. And just like we can engage all the in anything and everything in the service of Krishna, like this microphone or this laptop, these are you can use it to do many things. You can use it to do material things, or you can use it to do spiritual things. And I was listening to one of the lectures, and this Prabhu was giving this lecture on Zoom. He said, just look at this Zoom. You can use the Zoom to just chit chat with a friend, or you can use Zoom to give a class or preach to others. Now, when you use the Zoom for the purpose of preaching, then even the person who invented the Zoom, he will also get some benefit. He calls it Agyan Sikriti, right? So that's the Agyan Sikriti. So the person doesn't know that what it's going to be used for. But if it's used for Krishna's as a service, then even the person who made that, like whoever made this laptop, you will get some Agyan Sikriti. So you see the power of the bhakti, the power of this process of devotional service. So same way, just like we can engage matter in Krishna service, we can also engage our all senses for Krishna service, right? You can engage the hands for making prasadam for Krishna, engage the ears in hearing the Krishna katha, engage the tongue in speaking about glories of the Lord, engage the nose in smelling the garlands or the tulsi offered to the Lord, engage the eyes in seeing the beautiful form of the Lord. So engaging all the senses for the pleasure of Krishna So that in that way, that's the higher taste. That's the param drishva nivartat, and that's the higher taste. And then you won't be interested in the other materialistic activities, right? And this is beautifully explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, when Maharaj Ambarish pastime. So what Maharaj Ambarish was doing, he was engaging each and every sense of his in the service of Krishna. Sabe mana Krishna padara bindayo bachamsi vaikuntha gunanu varnani. Karo hare mandira marjanadisu srutim chakara chittasat kathadai. So he was engaging all his senses for the pleasure of Krishna. He was engaging his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna, his words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple, his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna, and he engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temple. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the tulsi. In this way, engaged his legs in walking to the holy places. In this way, 24/7, he was engaged in Krishna's service. He was always meditating on Krishna. And by that, he got, he was even more, he became more powerful than even Durvasa Muni, who was a very exalted yogi. Now, of course, Ambarish Maharaj didn't want to be powerful, but this is a byproduct of bhakti. So when one does bhakti, then that becomes, that's the topmost service one can do. So that is superior to both karma yoga and jnana yoga. Right? So what's the highest goal of life? What's the goal of human life? Can someone tell? Just on Zoom, would anyone like to tell? Just want to make sure that I'm still connected.
Bhakti, Prabhu.
Bhakti is the highest goal of life. Yes, Krishna Prem. Prabhu, Prabhu said. Yes. So this is a very beautiful verse. This is actually written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of our spiritual masters in this disciplic succession. And there's this scripture, this book he wrote called Chaitanya Matta Manjusha. And this, I think many of you know this verse. So this verse actually explains there are 5 essences of bhakti. And what are these 5 essences? Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayastadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachit Upasana Brajabadhu Vargena Va Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumatho Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Mataidam Tatra Dharanapara. So this is so he explains, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in this verse that according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Mataidam. So according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's opinion, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Krishna. So according to Krishna, there are 5 things, 5 essences of bhakti. And one of them is the highest goal of life, which I highlighted here, Prema Pumartha Mahan. That love of Godhead, Krishna Prem, that's the highest goal of life. So what are the other 4? Well, Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesha Tanaya. So the supreme worshipable Lord is who is supreme worshipable Lord? Brajesha Tanaya, the son of the king of Braja, the son of Nanda Maharaj, who is Krishna. So he is the supreme worshipable Lord. And Tadhama Vrindavanam, the supreme worshipable abode is his Dham, Vrindavan Dham. Then Ramya Kachit Upasana Brajabadhu. So there are many ways to worship the Lord, but the best method of worship was shown by the gopis, Brajabadhu. So the worship of the way the gopis worship the Lord, that's the best method of worship, which is the Madhurya Bhav. So that's the best. So the gopis are the best devotees of the Lord. And then it says Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamalam. What is the best scripture? Is Srimad Bhagavatam. Pramanam Amalam, Amala Puran, the spotless scripture. That's the Bhagavad Puran. And why is it spotless? because it glorifies the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Worshipable Lord. It glorifies his Dham Vrindavan. It glorifies the gopis and glorifies the devotees. That's why the Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Puran. It's the topmost scripture. Prema Pumartha Mahan. That's the highest goal of life, is love of Godhead. Okay, and this is the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Krishna. So this is a very important verse, and it gives us the essence of bhakti. That's the ultimate goal of bhakti. So I'll just end in the next 5 minutes by just giving few examples. So we have seen all these beautiful examples from our scriptures, right? All these exalted devotees who exhibited bhakti and how they perfected their life. Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj, Kunti Maharani. You take any example, right? Narad Muni himself. So all these exalted devotees, all the Mahajans you see, so they all perfected their lives by doing bhakti. But we can also take examples from very recent time, like from Srila Prabhupada's time. Srila Prabhupada is an exalted devotee of the Lord, and how he acted in Krishna consciousness 24/7. So that's the inspiration. But even Srila Prabhupada's disciples. So I'll give a couple of examples here just to illustrate, how by just doing one spiritual activity, but doing it with perfection. One activity, just completely 100% focused on that activity, and that make the life perfect. Okay. So the first example I'll give is this Prabhu, very exalted devotee. I don't know if any of you recognize this devotee. And anyone knows who this devotee is? He's from Vrindavan. Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu, yes, from Krishna Balaram temple. He was a cook at the Krishna Balaram temple for 40+ years. So when he first came in contact with Prabhupada, when he started living in Krishna Balaram temple, he started cooking. And Srila Prabhupada liked his cooking so much, and he said that this is the service which will give you perfection. You will go back to Godhead in this lifetime. That's what Srila Prabhupada told him. And he continued that service for 40+ years. He didn't even go out of that boundary wall of Krishna Balaram temple for 40 years. You can imagine, from 3 a.m. in the morning till 10 o'clock in the night, he'll be in the kitchen. And that's the service. So he was so much engrossed in that service, so much engaged in that service. And he'll be chanting while cooking. He'll be singing the Mahamantra while cooking. So everything he's doing, but his main activity was cooking. And that made his life perfect. Even in this very advanced age, I heard it from another devotee actually, from Vrindavan, that in a very advanced age, when he couldn't even go to the kitchen anymore, he couldn't stand up, then he would sit where the Charnamrit was being served, and he would insist that he would distribute the Charnamrit. That was his mood, the service attitude. So he would, in fact, when like for some of the devotees, he would just grab the hand and then give Charnamrit there. And some devotees explain that when he grabs your hand, that gives you kind of some electricity shock type of feeling that gives, like he is so much spiritually surcharged that even when he holds somebody, that person feels that power. So he is so exalted devotee. Yeah, I think he passed away maybe 10-15 years ago. But yeah, so he is very, very exalted devotee. So just see one example, just cooking, just doing cooking for Krishna's pleasure. He perfected his life. Another example, again, another very exalted devotee, Ayendra Prabhu. Yeah. So he in his early days in Krishna consciousness, he read somewhere that if you give up your life in Yamuna river, then you'll go back to Godhead. And he decided, okay, he's going to do that immediately. So he went towards Yamuna, and then he heard a voice within that you start the 24-hour kirtan in Krishna Balaram temple. Then he came back and he started that. So for the initial days, almost single-handedly, he used to sing. Like for 16 to 18 hours a day, he used to sing in the temple. Can you imagine? We have this 4-hour kirtan, we have a 2-hour kirtan. People show up just for last half an hour. Can you imagine somebody singing for 16 to 18 hours continuously in the temple? Somebody who doesn't have the taste for Harinam cannot do that. So he really got the taste for Harinam. And then, so if he doesn't have the other players like the Mridanga or for Kartal, so he will just wear the, what is that called, anklets. So he will make that sound of Kartal himself, play harmonium, and then whoever comes, the visitors, he will tell them play Mridanga. Then some devotee will say, okay, we cannot play, we don't know how to play. He said, just play, you'll learn by playing. So, that was his mode of service. And then later life also, when he became very famous kirtanier, he got a lot of assistants. Still, he used to continue to sing like 6 to 8 hours every day for kirtan. And the rest of the time, what he used to do? Not rest. He used to chant. He used to chant 116 rounds every day. Can you imagine? So these are some of the examples from very recent life. I mean, some of you might have even seen these devotees in person, right? So they are like so exalted devotees. So just by this one activity of singing, that he pleased Krishna. And in fact, this is a very confidential thing. It's mentioned he has written a book, and in that book he mentions that what is his swarup actually. It was revealed to him, and he is Radharani's one of Radharani's servant, and he's engaged in singing. He has a beena in his room. Actually, you can even see it now if you go. So there's a beena in his room, and so he's a beena player. His eternal job is to sing for Radharani. And so he mentions that in his book. Actually, he reveals that in his book. So yeah, so these are some examples of very exalted devotees who very recently exhibited all their pastimes. So we can get inspiration from them. Of course, maybe we cannot become like them, but we can get inspirations from them. Another example here. Anybody knows? Yeah, Jayananda Prabhu. He was a taxi driver, and he would drive taxi the whole night. And then he comes back in the morning to go straight to the Mangalarti, and then the chanting, and then this temple service. He doesn't sleep. I mean, his level of enthusiasm was out of the world. And he almost single-handedly he makes all the arrangements, the fundraising and everything for Rath Yatra. And that's the reason why whenever we do Rath Yatra anywhere in ISKCON, we have his photo on the Rath card. That was Prabhupada's instruction to put his photo on the Rath card. So he actually passed away when Srila Prabhupada was still there in this world. I think he passed. He suffered from leukemia, and then he passed away at a very young age. But again, so he was such an exalted devotee. There are so many examples like that. I heard another place, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. So he was working. He was working inside some company. So when he met for Srila Prabhupada, he wrote to Srila Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, what can I do? I'm a karmi. I'm working. But Srila Prabhupada replied back to him that, no, you are using your money for Krishna service. So you are not a karmi. You are a bhakta. So that's the message, that when we use, even if we are doing some simple activity, you're doing materialistic activities like everybody else, we are also like, we have jobs, we go to office, we do work. But if we use that, if we use that outcome, if we use that whatever resources we got in the service of Krishna, then that activity becomes spiritualized. We are no longer karmis. So that's the message that we can learn from examples of the exalted devotees. The activity might be the same activity, cooking, singing, or driving taxi. They are all mundane activities, but when done for service of Krishna, that becomes spiritualized, and that's the perfection of life. So I'll just end with this a nice quote by Srila Prabhupada from this is actually in the purport of 7th canto 6th chapter text 1. This very famous verse, Omara Acharet Pragya, verse of Prahlad Maharaj's instructions. Can someone read this? Yeah.
One who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life, in other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one example, one complete perfection. Srimad Bhagavatam 70.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so that's the message, that the perfection of human life is to use it for the service for the devotional service. And as Srila Prabhupada says here, even a slight amount of sincere devotional service. So what is important here is sincerity. Not like how much service one is doing, and if we can do a lot of, even if we cannot do, of course, the more service we do, the better. But time, place, circumstance, sometimes we cannot do a lot of service, but whatever slight amount of service we can do, that's sincerity in the service. That is the important thing. That's what Krishna is looking for. So actually, no spiritual service is like not, you cannot compare. Like one is higher, one is lower. Somebody doing pujari service, that's the higher service. Somebody is mopping the floor, that's lower service. No, it's not like that. Krishna sees the sincerity in the heart. So whatever service we are giving, whatever service we are doing, do it with full heart, do it with sincerity, and that's what will make the life perfect. Okay, so yeah, I'll stop there and see if there are any questions. Hare Krishna. If I made any mistake, please forgive me. Yeah, whatever I said is just taken mostly from Srila Prabhupada's lecture and from I heard other lectures by senior devotees. But if I made any mistake, that mistake is mainly because of my misunderstanding. So please forgive me and please correct me if I did anything, said anything wrong. There are senior devotees sitting here, also online. So please, please correct me. Hare Krishna.
Ask question. Send it out. Nine.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention is that this is kind of a side note that the painting you showed of the fella hanging on the tree. I was speaking with someone one time, and just what a difference between the way devotees see, the way, not to belittle this person, but they were describing that, even in this like very trying situation, there's threats everywhere, there's danger everywhere, but still he's able to get that honey. Say something good. Say something good.
Very quick.
Yeah,
That's how the material people
That's how-
justify
right.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all perspective.
Yeah.
I really like the picture that you showed,
Yeah.
our new temple versus the big buildings. That was rightly coming to this. It's
Very nice presentation. Thank you very much.
the slides were very nice.
Very nice. The whole thing.
Selected, yes.
Mhm.
And let's see if there is any question from online devotees. Then I have some announcements.
Yeah, maybe I can just add one thought here. So yeah, sometimes when we do preaching, we say, okay, there are problems in life, there's miseries and so on. So do bhakti, right? We preach it in that way. I mean, at least when I do it to the youth, that there you have so much depression, anxiety, stress, and so on. So why don't you try this? Why don't you try some meditation? Then sometimes they will complain saying that, why do you always talk negatively? Why do you say we are enjoying life? So that's the mentality, right? They'll always think that, okay, we're enjoying life. There is no problem until the problem comes. And sure enough, the problem will come at some stage. This dukhale masasatam, the problem will come, which they don't realize. I mean, now probably they're all happy, but at some point when the problem comes, that time they'll think, okay, maybe they'll think back to this message. But yeah, so problem is always there in this material life, and the sooner we realize there is a problem, the better situation we are in. Yeah.
That's such a common thing for us. I feel like, oh, you Hare Krishna, you're so negative.
Yeah, exactly.
I see all these negative things.
Right.
Oh, this world is suffering. We're living in a prison house.
Right.
Like, come on, man, enjoy life.
Yeah.
But it's becoming here and here.
Mhm.
Without enjoyment. They still want to enjoy. Enjoy.
Yeah, so in one lecture, Prabhupada gave us an example. There is this bird called ostrich. It's a very big bird. I think they live in Australia or somewhere. Very big bird. And now they're almost extinct. And the reason is that, so they're so big bird, they cannot fly. So they have to run. And so sometimes, they see danger ahead. If they know that they cannot run, they'll just dig their head on the ground and stay there. And that's how all the hunters, they kill the ostrich, right? Because they know that that's what they're going to do. They cannot run, they cannot fly, so they'll just stay there and they can capture them. So it's like, so when people say that, okay, there's no danger, everything is good, that's like this ostrich bird, right? Just digging your head underground and saying that there is nothing, no danger outside. So you have to just realize that, just look around and see if there is suffering or not. Yeah.
Anybody
Any
have
other
anything?
questions?
Online, anybody have anything that they want to say? Go with them. Okay, if not, then let's give a round of applause for the class. We are going to have next class also here. We'll try to see whoever can come and get the class on temple. Let them come and do it on temple. It looks very auspicious, very powerful to have that this session on temple. Also, tonight we are going for Harinam. So whoever wants to come, 6th of April.
So you're done already. It's compulsory.
What?
I said 6:30, down already.
Yeah.
It's compulsory.
Yeah, so 6th of April we go for Harinam. And
Don't get pushed out on Sunday if you don't come.
So please, come. I get the source to see everybody came early morning and devotee association is all that matters, right? The source is right and right. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna devotees, thank you so much. If you can come, please come for Harinam tonight. Hari Bol.